Welcome to the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, your guide to motorsports sponsorship. Here's your host, Josh Weesey.
Welcome. This is episode 67 of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast. I am here to help guide you through the complexities of motorsports sponsorship. And if you're listening right now and you haven't heard my vision before, this is it. Regardless of if you're a supercross racer, motocross, desert UTV, backcountry snowmobiler, ATV racer, drifter, drag racer, whatever it is, my vision is that you can learn how to better market yourself and drive more value for your sponsors just by listening to this show and making changes in the way you approach your sponsorship program. Now, the featured guests that we have on today are Jared Heshka of MBRP Powersports and also Tiffany Stone. Now, you might recall both of them were featured on the show in the past. So Jared was originally featured on episode 26 of the show, and Tiffany was featured on episode 57. Now, before I get into the rest of the cool things that they're going to bring to the show, I have a couple of other things that I want to cover with you. So first off, I'd love to get your feedback and show iTunes that this podcast is the real deal. Best way to do that is to go subscribe, leave a rating and review. I've been reading the ratings and reviews on the show, and this one here comes from Small Harbor 51. And here's the feedback. Incredible. I'm 14 years old and working towards having sponsors and being able to ride snowmobiles at the next level. Josh and his guests do an incredible job of providing content that's gold to me. I love what he is doing, and I can't wait for the future episodes. So I really appreciate that feedback. That's phenomenal. That's the reason why this show exists. That's the reason why I continue to produce episodes, because of people like Small Harbor 051. Now, I mentioned this before, subscribe regardless of what podcast player you use. And that is so that you don't miss upcoming guests. So our very next guest is going to be X Games star Robert Haslam. And if you missed our previous guest, we had dirt track racer and monster truck world record holder Joe Silvestre on. He was basically on episode 66. He's also a marketing genius, so you got to check him out. To get insider access and upcoming guests, and also just have a forum to ask questions about sponsorship, check out the Sponsored Rider Club on Facebook. Also, make sure you check out our Facebook page to be part of future live experiences where we dive deeper into the topics and then get into Q&A. We recently released our third live video featuring even another X Games star, Brock Hoyer. So Brock was featured on the show way back on episode 10. Go ahead and check out our Facebook page. If you don't want to go to the Facebook page and check that out, just wait, because it will be released as a podcast on iTunes and Google Play Music. Now, this episode was brought to you by 5 awesome companies. SolderWeld, they produce game-changing metal bonding technology. TopThePodium.com, they're experts in motorsports sponsorship. Bold Racing and Suspension, their family race team and custom suspension experts. Armor Coat, they produce products that make your cleanup easier. And then Crash Addict Industries, they produce extreme metal fabrication and safety products. I also want to give a quick shout out to some of our other partners, including MBRP, HMK, Studboy Traction, and One Stop Performance. Now, the structure of this podcast is different from any other one we've ever produced. In this one, we start with basically setting the stage. We catch up with Jared and Tiffany, see what's changed over the last time they've been on this show. So in this case, Jared, it's been over 40 episodes since he's been on, and Tiffany is over 10 episodes. So there's a lot that's changed in their world. And then we spend a lot of time in Q&A. So we gather questions from the audience through the Sponsored Rider Club Facebook page and group, and also on Instagram. And we basically summarize those into a couple of questions. So Tiffany and myself go back and forth asking Jared questions. So we talk about the best ways to promote your sponsors with a small social media following. We talk about what happens when a sponsor or a rider doesn't follow up on their commitments. We talk about challenges with getting feedback from riders and racers and how we can overcome that. And we also talk about the pros and cons to promoting posts on Facebook and Instagram. And then last but not least, we talk about social media strategy. Beyond that, I also ask both of them a couple of other bonus questions at the end. But really, that's it. That's the way it's set up. So I hope you enjoy this episode. If you want more like this, give me some feedback and we will make it happen. First off, I want to start. Jared, could you just introduce yourself, and then Tiffany's going to follow after that.
Certainly. Hey, guys, thanks for tuning in. My name is Jared Heshka with MBRP Power Sports, so I'm the brand manager for MBRP.
Awesome. Tiffany, what about you?
And my name is Tiffany Stone. You guys have probably seen me once or twice around at a racetrack, talking and interviewing with a bunch of drivers and, of course, hanging out with fans.
And most recently, you were at the Mint 400 doing some cool interview stuff there. So for people listening, this is March 14th of 2018 when we were recording. So the Mint just finished up a couple of days ago. So that was cool stuff.
No, it was awesome. Quite a different experience. And then I was able to go to King of the Hammers before that. So we can talk about that in a little bit. Yeah,
definitely. Well, this Heat 1 is going to be a little different. Everybody's heard you two on here before. You're on previous episodes, so we're not going to go into your whole background. But for people who want to go back and check out those episodes, I highly, highly encourage it. That way you can hear Jared and Tiffany's story. But this one is basically going to be Tiffany and myself are going to be kind of quizzing Jared on a few things. There's been a bunch of topics and conversations that have come up over the past couple of months, specific questions that people want answered. So we're going to go through those. Jared's going to kind of get grilled in the first part of this. And then after that, we have a few different questions that we're going to ask in the main event. But just to kind of kick things off, Jared, it's been almost 40 episodes now since you were last on. So what's new in your world?
Oh, man, definitely. I know I think it was last May that we recorded the podcast. So definitely been some time. I can even first off wanted to say that I love what you're doing. I mean, I love the energy that you're bringing to the power sports world. And, we have a lot going on at MBRP between, kind of really pushing in the side-by-side market, ATV and snow all kind of as one. Just to kind of circle back even the last time, just to kind of show the value that you're bringing in. We had a team called Desert Vets Racing reach out to us, and just because of the podcast, we've actually resulted in a really good relationship with them, and kind of getting those guys dialed in. So that's kind of one thing I wanted to focus on, directly relates to the podcast, and then something that's come to fruition out of it. Now, what's kind of going on at MBRP is, like I said, the side by side we're working on actually building a new building for power sports, and allow us to do more projects for side by side ATV and snow. So definitely a lot going on. Really looking forward to kind of the future as we move forward and, keep doing the podcast.
Yeah, and I was really excited to see you connect with Mike Pasquarello over at Desert Vets Racing. If people want to know a little bit about Mike, I was actually able to get him on this show. It was episode 37. It was live at Vegas Reno, and he was on for 4 or 5 minutes. Really cool guy, really cool race program. Desert Vets Racing, if you haven't already looked at it, go check that out. And it's awesome that you guys were able to connect with them. They've got some really good ideas, and they're starting to implement a lot of pretty big things right now.
Definitely. Yeah, really super good guys, always down to kind of go the extra mile or whatever you need and give you feedback too. So super, super thankful for that relationship we've got going on.
Definitely. Well, Tiffany, you were on only about 10 episodes ago, so it's not been that long, but I've already been watching you. There's been a ton of things changing in your world too. So, I mean, what's new?
Just kind of heading out west a lot. So getting into a lot of the desert racing, best in the desert and everything like that. Had a chance to go to Parker 425, then straight over to King of the Hammers. And then, like you were saying, I just got back from the Mint 400. So working with a network called the Edge TV, and, they're all into different types of excitement, different types of things going on. I mean, if you check out their network, you're going to see people like cliff diving. You're going to see people jumping out of planes. You're going to see people surfing. So it's kind of really cool that they've stepped into the off-road desert racing, motorsports type of world. And they're really interested because, just like Jared was saying, this market and everything is coming up and everybody wants to kind of be a part of it now. So kind of just getting into that and seeing what's going on. And I do have some things going on for the rest of the year. And, I would just kind of stay tuned because you never know what's going to happen.
Last time on the show, you said something like that, and that's when you were getting into the Mint. So I'm excited to see what else is coming, because I know you're like, keep watching, stay tuned, but you gave little snippets, but not everything. So now I got to keep watching. I got to know what's happening next.
No, exactly. And, I'm just very, very lucky to be able to do something that I'm super passionate about. And everybody that I've met along the way has just been open-armed about everything. So it's kind of really cool to head out west and see everything that's, progressing from there.
Definitely. One thing about desert racing too, it seems like anybody who spends a little bit of time with it ends up spending more and more time with it. I mean, when I first started this show, I had really no intent on having such a big focus on desert racing. I didn't know much about it, honestly, and the more I started spending time talking to people that did it, I was like, this is so cool. I don't know why it's the endurance piece or whatever, the survival piece. I don't know. It's just so cool. And now it seems like half my guests are desert racers or interested in desert racing.
Yep, no, it's really cool. So I'm excited to see where it goes from here as well.
Sweet. Well, that's good stuff. Again, I want to remind people, if you want to hear their entire story, Jared's background, Tiffany's background, go back at previous episodes, check those things out. Jared was on episode 26. Tiffany, do you remember what your number was? I had to look it up.
Oh, man.
Oh, buddy.
I wish I remembered.
We're testing the old brain cells.
You're putting me on the spot now.
Yeah. I that was not supposed to be my secret question for you. You were on 57. 57. Goodness
57.
gracious, I need to remember this stuff. 26 and 57. Download them, listen to them if you get the whole story. But for right now, we're going to take a quick break to thank the sponsors for this podcast. Safety is our overriding priority. I hear it all the time, but I have to ask myself, is it though? Is that the first thing we think of? Is that the first thing you think of? Over the past couple of years, we've seen the performance of production UTVs increase, somewhere around 350%. That means these machines give us a lot more opportunity to have fun and win races, but it also, unfortunately, gives us new opportunities to crash. And that's why we have partnered with Crash Addict Industries. The owner, Travis Pointer, became very accustomed to crashing early in his career. He saw it as inevitable, and he set out to make the process safer. With a passion for racing, welding, and engineering, Crash Addict Industries now produces full cage and other protection systems intentionally designed to protect you during an accident on the track. They also offer a line of human protection products through their vendors. Do this for me at this point. If you're racing with a stock cage right now, please go check out crashaddict.com and at least just see what they have to offer. Even if you choose to go with a different company, please make safety your overriding priority. I don't know about you, but I absolutely can't stand cleaning the mud, filth, grime, goo, garbage off my machines after I go for a ride. It's just frustrating. It takes a lot of time. That's why I'm going to talk to you about Armor Coat next. Armor Coat is designed to help prevent mud, clay, ice, and other grime from sticking to your machine. It makes the cleanup quick and easy. It makes the machine actually look fantastic, and beyond that, it smells phenomenal. I don't know how to describe it, like bubble gum or something like that. It smells great. If you want to know more about Armor Coat, visit armorcoatproducts.com, and you will see their entire product line, all the offerings. Armor Coat is also working on some new stuff. They're soon going to release a solution made for coating the helmet and visor, and also one for wheels to help prevent mud buildup for high temp areas. So make your move now. Go to armorcoatproducts.com. Make a decision that's going to allow you to shorten the amount of time that you spend cleaning so that you can increase the amount of time that you spend riding and racing. Have you ever been out on the trail or at the track or in the middle of the desert and something breaks? Well, of course you have. We've all been there. But a lot of people at that point, they reach into their trusty toolbox for the duct tape or the zip ties or wrenches to fix their machine. However, there's a feeling that you get when you realize you need more than just duct tape to fix that rock chip in your radiator. That's a horrible, horrible feeling to have. And that's why I'm going to tell you next about SolderWeld's metal bonding products, specifically alloy sol. So this product gives you a longer term fix than JB Weld, which is just going to get you back to the trailer or back to the pits. With basically the assistance of MAP gas or propane torch, you can quickly and easily repair an oil cooler, radiator, AC line, or any crack or hole in aluminum. And better yet, alloy soil flux is the only flux in industry that cleans and decontaminates the dirty and greasy surface for you. So you don't even have to worry about that part. The alloy sol rods are actually capable of a 30,000 PSI fix, and they're stronger than even the parent metal, and they're built to last the lifetime of the part. So don't let a simple radiator leak leave you out of the race or broken down in the trail. Bring along some alloy sole, aluminum alloy repair rod and flux from SolderWeld. I hear it constantly from racers that a good suspension setup is absolutely critical for performance, and that's why I'm going to talk to you next about bold racing and suspension. Now, it's really critical to understand your suspension, and there's so many intricacies with the valving and the shims and all this crazy equipment that you need to actually, rebuild and properly set up your suspension, that it's really important, if you're ready for that next level of performance, to partner with an awesome suspension company. Now, Bold Racing is that company. They're not only specialists with their suspension setups, but they also partner with companies that produce amazing custom components. And on top of that, they're a family race team. They actually race themselves, so they really understand the type of beating that your vehicle and your shocks can take. So what I want you to do is give them a call and just chat with them. Talk to them about suspension. Their number is 702-506-5354. If you're not ready for a phone call, go ahead and shoot them an email, bold.racing@yahoo.com. I am constantly asking the guests of this podcast how they attract and retain sponsors. And on almost every single occasion, somebody gives an example of a resume. A rider or a racer resume is extremely important to your overall sponsorship pitch and proposal. And it's tough to do. I mean, it's not really the easiest thing. Anybody can go through and put together a resume, so don't get me wrong there, but it's really difficult to get something that's like unique and different and stands out, and that also is something that can be put across multiple platforms. Well, that's one of the things that I want to talk to you about next, is how topthepodium.com can actually help you build a race or rider resume that can be used on multiple platforms. I'm talking like website, PDF, something you can print off that's interactive, that looks fantastic. It looks absolutely professional. Well, that's because it's made by a professional. This is the type of thing that's going to set you apart from the crowd, and that's going to position you for a strong sponsorship proposal. So what I want you to do next is go to topthepodium.com, and if you have a question, there's a little chat icon that pops up on the side of the screen when you go to topthepodium.com, and you can go ahead and type your question right there. Jeff Vanestal, he is the owner of Top the Podium. He's going to be able to respond to you directly, so check it out. All right, well, welcome back, everybody. It's time to get into the questions. Tiffany's actually going to kick this thing off. I'm going to sit back and listen for a minute. So, Tiffany, why don't you get us started?
Okay, awesome, Jared. So, I've talked to a lot of racers and been around them, and a lot of them are up and coming. And, I want to know, into your brain and your mindset, what is the best way to promote to your sponsors on social media if somebody is relatively like an unknown racer with a small following?
Definitely great question, Tiffany. So what I kind of look for, and it depends just quickly too, are these guys, would they have the products that they're looking for, or is this something that, let's say if they have an MBRP product, actually I can even answer this two ways. If they have an MBRP product and they're searching, let's say for more from MBRP, and they want to kind of get our attention, rather than, I think, in addition to posting, let's say a really cool sound clip or pictures and stuff like that, go into detail a bit more and kind of showing me that, why you kind of choose our brand, and then the features and benefits that it has for your sled, what it does for your riding, where you ride, and kind of paint the picture for me, what you're kind of involved in. So that kind of really helps me get an understanding of, who you are, a little bit of impression on that.
It's kind of awesome, especially just, you're noticing, because obviously they're already passionate about it. And so it just kind of plays into a little bit more.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, for the rider, let's say that's looking for, MBRP, but let's say is running a stock machine, even still kind of give me an idea, what kind of sled you're running, where you're planning to go, where you have been, and more of a background. I really want to know who you are, and that'll help me kind of, again, really get the idea of the sense direction where you want to go with your riding and what you're involved in. I tell us who you are.
Oh, that's good stuff, Jared. This has definitely been one that's on my mind too. I know a lot of people ask it. One thing that I'm always curious about, like I'll see people that have a pretty solid sponsorship program, right? And they might have, 1,000 followers, say, on Instagram, and then you might see someone else that's kind of struggling, but they got like 20,000 followers on Instagram, or maybe more than that. I don't know all the time of like how that stuff works. Like I know that social media is a big part of it. I know it's not everything, but I mean, how do people make that impact when there's such a big difference?
Right. So basically, yeah. So you're talking, okay. So if the guy has a smaller following versus the bigger following, but you kind of want to make a similar impact, is that what I'm kind of gathering?
Yeah. I'm thinking of people who have the smaller following and they're trying to still justify a sponsorship, but they have something else to bring, to the table. I mean, how do they show whatever that is that they can bring to the table?
Right. Well, here's a couple good ones too, and what I've seen some of our followers do. They'll reach out to like bigger snowmobile pages or something like that, and sometimes they'll even repost their content. So it's utilizing other pages that have a bigger following to get their content out there. And it ultimately adds not only followers to their page, but it gets a bigger reach for anybody that is helping them out. So it's showing that they're not maybe just super fine tuned on their own page, but utilizing, those other pages that also need content out there and good content, to help them grow as well. So.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Well, I've got a separate question for you, Jared, and this one is something that people have brought up on the show before, and it's always kind of been like an awkward point that they're just not sure exactly what to do with. But how do you recommend people handle a situation where a sponsor doesn't deliver on their commitment?
Yeah, definitely. I guess awkward would kind of justify it for sure. But it is something that is a little difficult to handle for sure. Power sports is such a small, passionate group of people, and you know what? Somebody always knows somebody. So when we first kind of start building, either a contract or doing with products or something like that, and somebody doesn't follow through, that name or somebody is always going to come up later on with conversations with somebody. You never really badmouth anybody, but you always, just kind of let them know your experience with them if they've gone to somebody else for sponsorship. So it's kind of one of those things. You have to do your homework at the very start and, really get a good feel for the person. And if they don't come through, then, it's kind of unfortunate, but I mean, the piece of advice I would really tell them is you want to focus on long-term, the short-term gain or the little bit of product you're going to get if you don't follow through. Okay. You've got that, but there's so much more to come long-term if you can fulfill those, those commitments as discussed when the sponsorship was put together.
Mm-hmm. So I know some people use contracts to help, clarify what expectations are around these commitments, things like that. But outside of that, like, let's say, actually, I'm going to pull out a really specific example this was, I think, what kind of led to the question from the audience. There was an instance maybe 6 months ago. I remember seeing it, and it was on social media. It was very, very visual at the time. I won't go into names or whatnot, but there was a person basically claimed that one of their sponsors, they were supposed to give them, X number of free product, and they ended up giving them not exactly what they wanted product wise, and it cost a certain amount of money. I don't know, just X amount of money. So the person got really upset. The rider got really upset and kind of blew up social media around it, and it really made a lot of people uneasy. So I think that's a good example of what not to do. But let's say if there is an instance like that where somebody does, a racer does get a different product than what they expected for more money than what they expected. How do you recommend they handle that?
As far as now, we talk from the racer's perspective, or from
the racer's perspective, if the sponsor didn't do exactly what they had promised.
From a racer's perspective, you got to be mindful of your self-image, because I mean, you can go on Facebook and blow up and show everybody that the sponsor didn't come through, but you know what, like if there's something, let's say if this happened to me and I had somebody that I didn't follow through with, you can always just like reach out to the manufacturer or company and always just kind of, you know, talk to somebody. This is what we agreed on. How come we didn't do that? And find a way, you know, because I think it shows a lot more of, you know, gives really a bad rap if you go on social media and do that. So I think it'd be best to kind of try and do what you can before going to social media. You know, that would be my suggestion.
Mm-hmm. Tiffany, have you seen anything like this before? I mean, do you have any recommendations?
Actually, I don't know. It's kind of different because I'm not in that realm as well.
Right.
You know, I'm not a driver. I'm not a rider. So I understand how important it is to have it, but I've never had to be in that situation where, you know, people didn't come through on those things, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I know when I saw that incident that I was referring to kind of go down, it was, I think the first wrong step was the screenshots. There was someone had taken screenshots of I can't remember if it was an email conversation or what, but then all of a sudden those screenshots were what was getting posted and it got like really awkward. But I just, you know, if I see that person now, I don't remember who it was, but if I see that person now, I'm going to be a little bit more hesitant to engage in conversation with them because I don't know if I trust them, even though they weren't the ones that did anything wrong initially. Yeah, it gets uncomfortable.
Right, for sure. No, I definitely agree. And that's something, again, it kind of gives off the image. If you go to social media, there's so many people will see it and stuff like that. And you can't judge really on social media how people directly feel about what they've put in words. So everybody's kind of got their own mixed perception. So, you know, it really can do a lot more harm than good if you do something like that. So it's always best to try and discuss it, you know, way beforehand to doing that.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to extend this question and put a little different spin on it. So let's say that same situation, let's say somebody's sitting out there right now listening and they realize, oh crap, I've done this before. You know, I blasted a sponsor on social media because whatever, they didn't follow through on one of their commitments. I mean, what would you recommend they do next? Like if they realize that they're listening right now, is there something that they can do to kind of save face?
That's a really good question, I think, too. Yeah, I think, I guess more or less. So, yeah, if they've already kind of held up their end of the deal and the manufacturer is falling short on their promises, I guess, you know, there's a couple things they could obviously do. I mean, like I said, follow up with the manufacturer or, you know, I mean, if there's a product or a company that's offering the same product that they're doing and you're not getting any response or anything like that, maybe it's time to do a different direction if that other product is something you believe in.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just to do that to get back at the company or anything like that. But that would be something that, you know, almost like a last resort, again, on off the record on social media end.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, I feel good about that. Tiffany, why don't you move on to the next question?
Okay, pretty much being in the type where you're sponsoring riders and everything, and how difficult sometimes is it to get riders, you know, to give you feedback or post for you, and, you know, how is that something that you can overcome or tell other riders, hey, these are things that we need from you to be able to help promote and help keep pushing it?
Mm-hmm. Definitely a good question for sure. You know, I can see, because I've been on both ends of the spectrum as well too. I broke into detail about my racing and stuff like that back on the earlier episode. But, you know, you kind of get working on getting different sponsors and stuff like that, and then trying to fulfill each one of their values. It's definitely pretty, you know, it's definitely a big task for sure. And when I reach out as a manufacturer, you know, maybe the first couple times could be a bit tough, but if you're living up to your expectations or what you've put together with the rider saying that you're going to fulfill, it generally gets easier. Where I find I have most success with it is, you know, just quick sound clips or something like that posted on the page, you know, shortly after. So there's no real time gap in between when they send it to you and when it's posted. And then they see the results of that, which again fires them up to provide more value and content. So, I think it's if where you'd have trouble with it is if you let things drag on, like if the the contract was put into place and maybe, there was minimal communication over a period of time, like let's say, a couple of months, the overall drive to get content or provide that value could kind of diminish. That makes sense?
No, yeah, I totally understand. It's kind of like a cycle, It's more of a you help me, I help you, but it all helps together, I feel like. And it's kind of cool to hear from an actual sponsor, like, hey, these are the things that we need, but we're willing to work together. And it doesn't have to be something extravagant. It just, something to show that the products that we're giving you are exactly doing what you need them to do to get on that podium.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'll even, like our race team, like Bailey Motorsports have been, we've been partnered with them this will be our third year now that we're just kind of finishing up. And I've seen from the start to where we've kind of grown to now, we have that relationship where we can, just ask each other, for different pieces of content, feedback on products is super easy. Hey, it maybe needs a bracket here, or hey, the sound needs to change here. And then, once they do have a final product, they're super easy to kind of give us content right at the races and stuff like that too. As you can imagine, a race weekend's pretty hectic. So to take a few minutes with a cell phone or something like that and get us some content, they've been really, happy to provide, and it helps us kind of keep that, excitement up for the weekend that they're racing as well to promote it.
Awesome. Yeah, perfect. Well, Josh, I think you got the next question.
Yeah, definitely. And this is a tough one, Jared, especially nowadays with Facebook and Instagram and the ability to boost posts. So what's your opinion on this? Should riders and racers be boosting their posts on Facebook and Instagram? And, what's the good reasons behind it? What are the cons?
Yeah, I think, I can start off with maybe some of the cons. I think obviously, there is a financial investment that's needed. But the pro side of it is, it's allowing you to reach more. Cause let's face it. I mean, obviously, as we all know, Facebook has cut the reach. And so you have to pay to expand your reach. Again, to just be that guy that's sticking out maybe a little bit above people, I would suggest, you don't have to spend, $20 and $30, like probably, 5, 10 maybe on the odd post is something that you feel is really good, that's going to get sponsors' attention. Even tag them in the photo, even if you're not running them yet, or something like that, was what I would recommend too. Cause, I know for how often I check the Instagram and Facebook posts, if you tag us, definitely gets my attention. And, if you don't have the can, I'll notice it because I'll hear in the clip, and that'll make me likely reach out to you and see if how we can kind of get you a drink of the MBRP Kool-Aid, so to speak.
Definitely. So this is something that I know I struggle with too, is trying to figure out which posts to boost, which ones you run ads to, and even if honestly, should we be running ads to, if we have a Facebook page, should we run ads to those? So I don't know. I mean, in terms of like overall ad strategy, do you have recommendations around, running ads to, to a website, or running ads to, a general Facebook page, anything like that?
Yeah, I think, what I found is the best is video content. Pictures and stuff like that are really cool, but, I just see the transition, everything from Instagram stories and, Facebook and everything. There's so much video content out there. And if you have some really cool, quick video clips like that transition every couple of seconds or something like that, like let's say you have a drive-by and a startup clip and a couple little fast clips. Let's face it, I'm guilty of it too. My attention span on some Instagram posts is very minimal. So if you can cram a bunch of, fast clips within a short period of time, like, 5 to 10 seconds, it helps people kind of get a bit more hooked and, pay attention to your content. So like I said, yeah, video is definitely a better direction for boosting posts. And then direct them back to your Facebook page, and then even your website as well too, if you feel that's got sufficient content and value.
Tiffany, have you done much with boosting posts on Facebook or Instagram?
A little bit on Instagram, just because I use that a little bit more. But just like Jared was saying, I do use the boost for a lot of the videos, and then I'll have them go back to my website, just because with the minute-long video clips on Instagram, I can't sometimes put those all up. So I'll have them go back to my website where the full video is, and that's connected to like the YouTube. So I'll still get the analytics from that.
Oh, okay. Okay. So one thing, actually, this is completely off the script, but from an analytics perspective, something that I started doing a little bit more recently, and I think that would add value for people, is using it could be Google or a Bitly, but like a URL shortener. Like I know, for example, Google has a URL shortener. So if you have this big long link to a website or whatever, or even if it's going back to your Facebook page, you can use Google URL shortener. It gives you a smaller link, but it also gives you analytics tied to that link, so you can tell how many times people clicked it, which I think is pretty fascinating, and it's really good info. Have either of you used something like that?
Can't say I have.
Ooh, maybe you can try. Maybe it's a new thing.
I definitely will. Yeah, dropping knowledge here, man. I like it.
Tiffany, have you done anything like that?
Yeah, I actually have, just because it makes it a little bit easier. Certain things that you want them to look, you can customize your Bitly link, and I've done that for different things, but it also helps because you can see just the growth and see what kind of works as well, and it also helps to know what that Bitly is to make it a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing that I started using it for is I'll look at, so for this podcast, downloads, it's a pretty big indicator of how well an episode does or doesn't do. But that means people have to actually download it. They have to, a lot of times, follow a link and click a button unless they're already subscribed. So that's one of the ways I'll measure, like it's like a funnel. So if I have 500 people click on a link, but then I only have 50 downloads, then I know that there's a significant number of people, once they get to the page, they don't actually download it. Or the other way, if I have 50 people click it and 49 people download, then I know something is converting really well within there. But yeah, I'm sure that people could try using that as well. If they do boost a post or not, that could be a good way to help them track how well that actually did to get them wherever you want to get them. Tiffany, what about you for the next one?
Okay, so going off more social media and everything that we were talking about, Jared, seeing now like Facebook is putting less priority on page content, how is that going to pretty much change your social media strategy when using Facebook or different social platforms?
I'm definitely glad this one was asked for sure. I think, Josh, I saw it in the comments when you posted questions to ask.
Yes.
Take a quick step back a little bit. The thing, really I have to realize, whoever it is, whether you're selling, clothing, hard parts, or, any power sports goods or goods regardless, one thing you have to realize, your product isn't for everybody. So once you kind of realize that, that'll definitely let you kind of fine tune who you want to go after. I've had to get very, very specific of who I've had to, kind of target more or less, really kind of fine tune, age groups, regions where it's high snowmobile territory, and then the same also works for side-by-side and ATV. You have to be very specific, like I would target like Arizona or Lake Havasu, Glamis, areas like that where there's lots of enthusiasts, and then kind of target their interests as well. So then you kind of tag, let's say, the manufacturers, and various other ones, just to, like I said, fine tune who you're going after, because realize you can't just throw it on Facebook now and kind of get some engagement. Once you fine tune it and direct it for people that are generally going to be interested in your product, more than likely going to see better results versus just posting it.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
Something interesting that I just thought of when you were saying that is from a targeting standpoint, I think that you can do a lot with the ads specifically, but one of the things that people can do for themselves, if they want to focus in on the content that they actually receive, there's a setting you can go into on Facebook and say like, hey, one of my priorities is I want to see these posts. So for example, I like following Jim Beaver's stuff, and I have been for a while now. And once Facebook recently changed, they scale back on what content people actually see, I went into my favorites and said, hey, I want to see Jim Beaver's content. I did actually the same with MBRP, and Tiffany, I did the same with you too. But I said like, hey, I want to make sure that I still see these people content because I don't want to lose that. But then I also have noticed now that there's things that I completely miss. So if I didn't select everything that I wanted to select, then I'm missing it. And it looks from the external standpoint that I just don't care as much about other people's stuff now, but that's not the case. I just don't ever see it. So I saw one thing that I think it was Travis Pointer did, and he was ahead of the game. He put a post up that before Facebook made their changes, he somehow knew this was happening. He put a post up that said, "Hey everybody, if you want to still follow me, if you want to still see my stuff, you need to go in your settings and you need to select me as one of your favorites." And I don't know if there's a way to like still do that and boost that post and get it out to your followers, but if you could do something like that, boost it, get it back in front of your people, because I know you can target people on Facebook ads to go back to just people who like your page. You know, if you could do that and then get them to actually go back through and hit you as a follow, then maybe that will help re-engage after this, Facebook reprioritization.
Right. No, for sure. And I could see that definitely helping. And what, just on the Instagram side of things, you've probably seen, Josh, every so often I post, I'll do like a screenshot and then kind of like a little arrow to the top right corner to turn on post Notifications. Just, again, yeah, definitely helps kind of get the word out there. Especially because the stories I find I get some really good views on those. And then if people are like, oh, well, I don't want to miss anything from MBRP, just turn the post notification on. As soon as I post, you can get an alert or just a notification on your phone or whatever, and kind of check out our latest content. So it's another way on the Instagram side to not miss anything. But it's obviously kind of getting a little bit tougher to kind of get that turn notification post out. But screenshotting in your story is definitely something good to use.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what, I'm waiting for the next thing. Like, there's something coming. I mean, social media at one point came and took everybody by storm. There's got to be something else that's coming. That's a new outlet to reach people. Like, it's super niche. I don't know. Do either of you have insights on that? Like, do you have any bold predictions you want to make?
Oh boy, I think we're doing it right here.
There you go.
Yeah. No. No, that's a really good one. I mean, I think there's so much time, we can spend on, social media as itself, between Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of those 4 different platforms. I think something, that would come out that would be a 5th option. I would, I don't know if I could really kind of put my finger on that, to be totally honest.
Tiffany, what about you? You got this whole thing figured out and you're just holding back?
No, I think that the next thing is, at first was video and all of that. First was like photos, and then it was video. And then honestly, I think the next thing is exactly what Jared was talking about, was the whole, I think podcasts are the next thing, because people need to still be entertained. They need to still be influenced. And, after a while, seeing the same type of picture is going to get boring. And then after a while, seeing the same type of video is going to get boring.
Mm-hmm.
So people are going to need a different outlet.
If I could have just maybe key in on what Tiff said there. The thing I think we find with podcasts too, and I'm starting to listen to them more and more, is it's very, it's not saying Instagram isn't real, but it's nice to kind of hear conversations and stuff like that too, whether you're driving in the car or there's a lot of value here, I think, in different areas. So, seeing podcasts maybe start to grow more and more is something I could see, I could really see, and as it's happening now too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know one thing that I've been seeing Facebook put a higher priority on is live videos. Instagram, same way. I guess it could be Twitch as well, right? Twitch, is that the name of it? I probably should know this, but either way, the live video thing is pretty big now, because they send out push notifications, to your followers or your friends when you go live. And I started getting into that. I've released 2 episodes now live, and it's fun, but it's a whole nother level of difficulty, honestly.
Yeah, I could definitely see that for sure. But I do agree that live video is definitely an outlet for sure. That's going to likely grow as well, or is growing as well. It kind of gives people a really good raw inside look. Like, I do it a lot when I'm at events. It's just like, here's to our 23,000 followers that, hey guys, we're at this event, keying in on snowcross specifically. It's a lot more engaging when, I can kind of do a live feed, let's say, of Bailey Motorsports trailer, a little bit of, their warm up, and then kind of some of the racing. So we get some pretty good engagement with that too. Likely, around the 100 viewer mark sometimes, right at one time, but likely, there's probably 500 viewers that kind of catch it while we're doing it.
Yeah, definitely. Tiffany, have you experimented at all or gotten into live video much?
Yeah, I know Edge TV does a lot of the live Facebook videos and everything, and it seems to have a great following. And I know a lot of larger companies are going that way, and then especially like with YouTube, and they're doing their whole thing. They've always done live, but they're really stepping it up where a lot of different companies are starting to use YouTube Live, and then it just, it can only go up from there. Yeah,
I think it's pretty cool. And also, when I look in some of these companies and what they're using for, like gear and setup, it's pretty amazing the type of stuff they have to go Facebook Live. I mean, they'll have like 10 computers or something. I don't even understand how it works, but versus just like a cell phone, which is what I do right now. But it actually is pretty easy to do it from a technical standpoint. I mean, really what you need, bare minimum, is that cell phone and then just a plan of what you're going to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's good. Actually, at this point, I think it's probably time to move into the main event, and that's when I get to take back control over the questions. I have some different questions that I'm going to ask, and I have one special super secret one that you guys don't know about yet, and that's coming still. But I'm going to start with Tiffany, and I'm going to ask you like what I'm calling a scenario-based question. So if you could sponsor any rider or racer out there, and you can't say Josh Wiese, because I'm not a rider or racer, you can't say me, who would you sponsor and why?
I felt like this was going to be a loaded question, and it's really funny because when it comes down to it, I didn't really pick one, because I really would want to pick whoever I thought would be like the person who embodies the brand, who is out there being passionate about what they want, but yet still having fun and not really, taking anything from anybody, just kind of going out there, being who they are, being true to themselves, loving the sport, and then just kind of being like, oh, these people like me and they want to like sponsor me, but be so humble. So, there's tons of people out there, and I didn't want to just narrow it to one, but that's exactly the type of person I would want to sponsor.
So Josh Wiese, I already said you can't say me. You said humble. I think it really lines up with me, especially the way I'm responding to this question right now. That's good. All right, so question for Jared here. I kind of stole this question from, I think Tim Ferriss does this on his podcast, so it's kind of stolen from him, so give him credit for this. But if you could create a billboard and place it anywhere in the world, what would be on that billboard, and where would you place it?
Yeah, I saw this question come up, and I was just like, that's really good. It's funny. I almost swear you read my mind. I just got back from like West Yellowstone, Montana, doing some mountain riding, and I was sitting in the Chicago airport, and I was sitting there, and I'm like, man, there'd be a really cool spot for a billboard here. And that's how I saw it come up, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of funny. But yeah, like either an airport like Chicago, because so many people I find go through there on their way to a destination like Bozeman, Montana, or, Minneapolis or St. Paul kind of thing. So I think a lot of people go through there that are general enthusiasts and stuff like that. And when you're bored waiting for your plane or something like that, let's say it's sitting in your, where your plane is. I can't think of the name right off the top of my head.
Tarmac? Is that it? Tarmac?
No, not tarmac. No, I'm thinking wherever your gate. I guess it's a gate. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I don't know if that's a word or not. Yeah. Sure. But, what I think would be on that is I almost want to find something that's going to pull people in. So, I think it would obviously be MBRP Power Sports, a couple different shots of Power Sports vehicles, and then say, something kind of the most enhanced riding experience you'll ever have, or providing the thrill of power sports, something kind of a little bit catchy, but not too wordy. And, I'm kind of going off the cuff here, but, more or less where I would want to have it is somewhere that's really high traffic, that sees lots of people, and where you more or less might have some people's attention. I think an airport would be kind of cool.
Definitely. So I want to draw out a couple of points from both your responses. So Tiffany, first off, the things that you described, what you didn't say was the person who wins every single race, or whatever. That wasn't part of it. You were very much around what they embody in the brand and how they represent themselves. And you probably pulled out traits and stuff that you admire. So I think that's important for people to hear in what a sponsor might look for, because really they're looking for a partner. We use the word sponsor, but really it's a partnership, and they're looking for somebody who links up with their brand and that can sell product. So I thought that was pretty important. I wanted to kind of pull that out. And Jared, for yours, what I wanted to pull out from that is you picked a spot that was high visibility, that was targeted, and that shared the most important message that you want to share. And I mean, that's honestly what we're doing on social media as well. I mean, every time we put up a post, that's our own little billboard. We just get to choose sometimes where we send it to if we boost a post. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting question. Tim Ferriss asked it like to all of his guests, I think, or at least a lot of them, and they have all sorts of crazy stuff that they say. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely thought it was a good one for sure. Definitely makes me think for sure.
So I think now it's time for my super secret question. I've probably built it up way too much. It's not even that great, but it's going to put one of you on the spot. How many, I'm not even going to say who it is yet, how many rules are there in the T-Stone list of rules? How many? Like, we got to know.
Oh, there's infinite amount of rules. The rules are ever changing, and they just happen to start, and they're never going to
Do you actually have a list? Like, is there really a list, or is this just a thing that you do?
No, there's really a list. But like the list, just like I said, it's kind of whatever's on my mind at that moment, and they're kind of like an inspirational list. And I actually, surprisingly that you just started that, I started a T-Stone Rules to Live By Instagram page where the ones that I've had from before, I'm just going to go put, so it's going to be more of like a quote type of page. So I'll still have my normal Tiffany Stone page, everything that I do, all the hosting, pit reporting, broadcasts and whatnot. But I decided everybody was asking about these rules, and everybody like makes up these rules. And I was hanging out with Vision Wheel because I do a lot of stuff with them for desert racing and off road. And we were out at the mid 400, and they were like, T-Stone Rule 56, blah 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 blah. Or is this on your T-Stone rules? What number is this? And so it just is turning into something. It's kind of fun. So I do have a list of the ones I've already used. You can go to the hashtag T-Stone Rules to follow or to live by. And those are my rules to follow. So, and if you go to Instagram now, it's on there at T-Stone Rules to Live By.
You're not kidding that you just started it. It's 11 hours ago.
I'm not joking.
I mean, I was like, I just searched it, and I was like, oh yeah, 11 hours ago. That's awesome. You now have another follower because I'm following that page, and you have 2 new fresh likes. Actually, why don't I read them? I mean, let's make this interactive right here. So let's see. T-Stone rule number 1. You are a badass. Remember that. Bam. T-Stone rules live by. Next one. T-Stone rule number 7. So we know that there's at least 7 at this point. Learn, grow, succeed, repeat. T-Stone rules live by. That's it. All right. That's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, just know this. The last rule that I have right now that I'm at, because I really haven't, it is T-Stone rule number 73. Onesies are appropriate anytime, anywhere.
Oh man, that one you could probably turn that into a viral social media campaign, like show me your onesie, and it's gonna get weird, but it could be fun. It could be fun.
That could be fun.
Nice. T-shirt worthy.
Yeah, that's T-shirt worthy for sure. Well, cool. Well, hey, this was an awesome episode. I hope that people listening got a few of their questions answered. Definitely if people have other questions, feel free to reach out to me. I always like taking those questions and throwing them out either the Sponsored Rider Club Facebook group, or you bring them into the show. So if people want to do that, my email is podcast@impactfuel.org. But at this point, we're going to kind of wrap things up at the finish line. So, Jared, quick question for you. What's the best way for our listeners to connect?
You reach out to my Instagram or Facebook page just at Jared Heshka. That's Jared, Jared, Heshka, Heshka, or shoot MBRP Power Sports a DM. I'm the guy that tries to get back to all of you, or the DM requests or messages, anything I can do to help out. Feel free to ask away.
First off, I got to add something onto that. I want people to remember that there is actually a human being standing behind either the computer or the phone whenever you send a DM. So just remember that, even if you're sending a message to a company, like it could be a 1,000 person company or a 300,000 person company. There's somebody that's reading that. It's a real human being. In this case, it's Jared. So
yes,
definitely. Just a quick note. Tiffany, same for you.
So if you guys want to reach out to me, pretty much you can reach out to me on my website. It's at tiffany-stone.com. And then, of course, all the same social media. So Instagram and Twitter is at Tiffany Stone. And then Facebook, I still have that page that I use, and I still contact, so you can message me on there as well. And it's facebook.com/official Tiffany Stone, because somebody took Tiffany Stone. So I had to be the official Tiffany Stone.
I didn't mean to take it when I did. Like it wasn't on purpose. I really liked the name, and I thought it worked well for something in the future. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I appreciate both of you joining us today and sharing your insights. Tiffany, thanks for helping me grill Jared a little bit, making him uncomfortable. I think it was good stuff. So at this point, though, we're going to close things out. Have fun and ride safe. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast. Make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss any of our upcoming guests. Specifically, we have our X Games star Robert Haslam coming up next. Also, please head over to iTunes and leave a rating and review, because that does wonders for the exposure of this show. If you have any questions or guest recommendations, shoot me an email, podcast@impactfuel.org. A special thanks goes out to our sponsors, Armor Kote, SolderWeld, Bold Racing, TopThePodium.com, and Crash Addict Industries. Additionally, I want to give another quick shout out to our other sponsors, MBRP, HMK USA, Studboy Traction, and One Stop Performance. Make sure that you are following us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Specifically Facebook, we got some cool live experiences coming out of there, most recently featuring Brock Hoyer, another X Games star. I look forward to serving you again next week. And until then, have fun and ride safe.